Good morning and welcome to the annual NDY International Women's Day Breakfast event, where this year we're celebrating the theme of Better for Balance. For those that I haven't met before, my name is Benita Husband and I'm Director of Strategy, Clients and Markets here at NDY. I call Melbourne home, so I'm really excited that we've hosted this event here today. And I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and the Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today. I recently learnt that last year Wurundjeri elders addressed the Victorian Parliament to support a Yarra River Protection Bill. The bill was the first legislation ever to go before the Victorian Parliament with a dual Aboriginal language title and the first to include an Aboriginal language preamble. Wurundjeri elder Auntie Alice Kolassa is the first Wurundjeri person to speak from the floor of the Parliament as a traditional owner of the land upon which Parliament House was built. This action here in Melbourne by a proud, respected and generous woman embodies the very essence of International Women's Day. And this year's theme of Balance for Better recognises the importance of all people working collaboratively for real change. We have a couple of wonderful women here this morning to share their experiences and insights. But first, please welcome our CEO, Stuart Fowler, who will say a few words about International Women's Day and NDY's journey towards gender parity. Stuart travels a lot as our CEO, and I admire that he's still conscious of making time for his family and special dates, so it's great to see him role model Better for Balance as well. Thanks, Stuart.
Just in case. I too would firstly like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet here today and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Well, welcome to NDY's Melbourne office for this breakfast celebration of International Women's Day. We're incredibly pleased to have both Matti and Yvonne here with us to speak today. I'll leave more formal introductions to Benita a little later on, but I want to extend my personal gratitude to both Matti and to Yvonne for taking the time to come along and share their insights with us here this morning. So an upfront round of applause if you don't mind. Thank you. We're also so pleased to have so many of our wonderful clients and colleagues able to join us this morning for what is a really important celebration. So thanks to you all for your attendance also. NDY has celebrated International Women's Day for a number of years now, and although this year is the first year that we've had formal celebrations here in our Melbourne office, so I'm pleased that you've chosen to join us this morning with us here in our Batman Street Melbourne home. As Benita said, this year the theme for International Women's Day is Balance for Better. Balance is something that is key not only for better business, but for a better society. From grassroots activism to worldwide action, we're in an exciting period in our history where the world is demanding and expecting balance. We notice its absence, and quite rightly, we celebrate and promote its presence. In an Australian business context, WGEA, the Workplace Gender Equality Agency, an agency of the Australian Federal Government, is charged with promoting and improving gender equality, or balance, in the Australian workplace. So I'm actually incredibly pleased to share with you this morning the new news that we received and promoted last week of NDY's citation as a 2018-19 WGEA Employer of Choice for Gender Equality. We're incredibly proud of the progress we're taking as an organisation on the gender equality journey, and to be formally recognised by WGEA as one of only 140 businesses, I think it's 140 businesses in all of Australia as an employer of choice is really gratifying indeed. So our citation comes in response to a lot of very hard work driven by our wonderful people team, led by Jen Gowland, but supported by Rebecca Reid. And Beck is here now, and I can't point to... So Beck did a huge volume of work herding the cats, as I like to describe it, in this area, and a wonderful piece of work, and was a wonderful leader for us in this space. So while I have the opportunity, I'd like to publicly acknowledge Rebecca and our people team for their wonderful work in that space. Enough about NDY's achievements. Today is about celebrating and recognising International Women's Day. It's about celebrating the social, the cultural, the economic and political achievements of women, while also marking a call to action for accelerating gender balance through the Balance for Better theme. I'm proud of our achievements, NDY's achievements in terms of better balance. I'm proud that NDY is hosting this event here today. And so I'm very happy that you're all able to join us. Thanks for your attendance. Enjoy the breakfast and enjoy our wonderful speakers. Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart. Now, I'm very excited about our two keynote speakers today. I'm proud to call both these women friends, and they're both very humble, so I'm looking forward to hearing a bit more about them today. We're going to get them both to speak first, and then we'll save our questions for the end. Our first speaker is Matti Clements. I met Matti studying our MBA at Melbourne Business School. She was a great person to have in our cohort, not just because she was a really hard worker, but because she always made things fun. And I think enjoying yourself in everything you do is part of getting that balance right. Matti is Deputy Director, Athlete Wellbeing and Engagement at the Australian Institute of Sport. Prior to this, Matti was the Director of Mental Edge Consulting, a company specialising in team and organisational culture, wellbeing, performance enhancement, professional development services and support systems for high-performance sporting organisations. She has over 15 years' experience working with Australia's top elite and professional sports at both a strategic and operational level. Matti is a qualified psychologist with broad experience in the design, implementation and ongoing management of national programs in the area of wellbeing, professional development services and support systems, and for lots of organisations which have included several AFL clubs, Cricket Australia, Golf Australia, Netball Australia, Tennis Australia, AFL and the Australian Cricketers Association. A lot. Matti is currently a director for the Tennis Victoria Board, the independent chairperson for the Australian Rugby Union Player Development Program Committee, and a member of Cycling Australia's Nominations and Remunerations Committee. In 2014, Matti was the general manager of People and Culture at the St Kilda Football Club. She's also got a wonderful family with two gorgeous twin girls. So I look forward to hearing from her now. Thanks, Matti.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I love International Women's Day, and I was thinking about coming here today and thinking, why do I love events like this and women's leadership programs, etc.? And I think it comes down to three key reasons. I've spent my whole working life in elite and professional sport, and a majority of that time has been in pretty male-dominated environments, as I believe your industry is very similar. As you may be aware, or you might recall, when you first start a job, and my first job was at one of the State Institute of Sports, you may remember you don't actually get to choose much of what you get to do. So you're the junior of the team, you get given the stuff that no one else wants to do. Remember those days? You know, so the senior staff get to choose what they want to do and you get the leftovers. As the junior psych, the leftovers were the female athlete groups. So senior staff took the male squads and I got stuck with the women's squads, in their words. It was some of the best opportunities I could have got. So I worked with the women's soccer program, netball program, women's rowing, etc. Some of the best opportunities. But it's now reflecting on it, I think about how ironic that was. The women's programs were the ones that no one wanted to work with. Second reason, as I said, I work in a very male-dominated environment, and a large part of the last 10 years has been working in professional sport. And often I have been the only female in those groups. And I've had some great experiences. absolutely great experiences. And a majority of the time I've felt very much part of the team and a valued part of the team. But there have been little moments throughout those years where it's been made aware or come to my attention that I am a little bit different to the rest of those in the football department. And a couple of those examples are at one of the football clubs, football department on one floor, no female bathroom. So, and it's a great football club. Great football club. I had a great period of time there. So I was the only female in the football department. I'd be the person that had to traipse upstairs to go to the bathroom. And interestingly, one of the players one day, one of the senior players said to me, "Where are you going?" I said, "There's no toilet on this floor for me." And he was aghast. Had never crossed his mind that there were no female toilets on that floor. There's a constant theme of toilets in my story. Because the next example was another football code. And I once again really enjoyed my time working with this football club. Went down to their off-site training venue for a couple of days, only female in the entire organisation. And I said, 2 seconds, I'm ready to present, I just need to go to the bathroom. And this look of horror came across the person's face. And they're like, "That may be a little bit of an issue." That's a bit weird. He said, "Follow me." We go down to where the female bathrooms are, and they're being used as storage cabinets. So I climbed over all the boxes to get into the toilet. As I said, I love my industry, and a majority of the time I felt really, really appreciative and appreciated in my industry. But there's little moments like that, and they're not purposeful, and they're getting less, there's no doubt about it, they're getting less. But those little examples do say to me, we've still got a long way to go. So I said there were a couple of reasons. I might park the third reason, but I wanted to talk to you about female athletes in sport. Our female athletes, and I've just got the data up there around our Olympic athletes, our female athletes kick butt at the Olympic Games. We absolutely kick butt over the male athletes. At the Rio Games, you can see there, out of the 23 gold medals, female athletes got 20 of them. Now, given that was a rugby sevens as well in there, but we still kicked butt. This is just the Olympic medals, Paralympics and Commonwealth Games data isn't up there. Consistently, our female athletes perform better than our male athletes. But this is what our female athletes actually do in their time. So many of our athletes can train 30, 40 hours a week. Only 4% of our female athletes do nothing in terms of not study or not work. Only 4%. And you can see up there, there's many of them studying full-time, on top of training 30 to 40 hours a week. That is not the same data, or they're not the same stats as for our male athletes. This data is from Olympic, Commonwealth Game and Paralympic athletes. It is not from our professional sports. But this is amazing. We talk about balance. A lot of these female athletes have absolutely no balance. They work really, really hard, both on the track and away from the track, because they have to. Because, I'm not sure if any of you saw this, 2 weeks ago, in the industry I love, we're still making statements like this. We still do not have equal pay for our female athletes. So our female athletes who consistently outperform our male athletes at Olympic Games still don't get paid equally. So our female cricket players, who are undoubtedly one of, if not the best team we have in the country at this point in time, still do not get paid the same same as their male counterparts. That says a lot, that 2 weeks ago, some of our leaders in my industry had to come together to say, we've got to do this better. We've come a long way in my industry, but the fact that I still have to climb over boxes to get into the toilet or climb up a flight of stairs, which is good for exercise, but says a lot of other things about where the industry is at, we've still got a lot of work to do. And fundamentally, that we've got athletes that are working full-time, studying full-time, and training full-time hours, and often having to spend 8 months overseas as well, in terms of competition, etc., in a lead up to a games. The fact that they don't get paid equally still says that we've got some discrepancies, that we don't have balance in my industry. So I said there were a couple of reasons why this day and topics such as, and weeks like this and leadership programs are hugely important to me, and that they're important for 3 reasons. I've talked about 2 of them. The third reason is that I have identical twin daughters that are 7 years old. And I did watch them play tennis on the weekend, and they're definitely not going to be tennis players from what I observed. One was crab walking across the court, the other one was doing something completely unrelated as well, so tennis might not be their thing. But I wonder if they were males, would they be afforded the same opportunities? Oh, they would be afforded different opportunities than currently as females, okay? We know that. Differences in pay. But what we also know is that when females reach their teenage years, they are significantly more likely to drop out of sport. And what the data shows is why they drop out is because of peer group pressure, concerns about what they look like, not wanting to stand out from the crowd. Sport does wonderful things. And whether you're an Olympian, a Paralympian, a Commonwealth Games, or a world champion as a female, or you like to just hit the ball around the court on the weekend, it's really important our daughters stay involved in sport, because it teaches you can do amazing things. It teaches you that you can be strong, physically strong and mentally strong as a female, and achieve great things. It teaches you that what you look like and your body shape is not all about being really skinny and thin. That you can be hugely, hugely impressive and be of a whole heap of different body shapes, and being strong, athletic and fit is a great thing for your mind and your body, and for the community. We need to keep our females involved in sport. We need to keep our daughters involved in sport for the future of how they grow up to be role models, and what they learn from sport is a great, great thing. That's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matti. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions for you later. Next, we'll hear from Yvonne von Hartel. So I first met Yvonne working on a proposed project together, and then as a member of a committee that she chairs. And I've shared lots of other lunches and coffees with her along the way. In researching for this morning, I came across a Wikipedia page about Yvonne. That's how accomplished she is. So Yvonne is a founding principal of the award-winning national architectural and urban design practice Peckvonhartel. Yvonne has practiced as an architect for over 50 years, working on Australia's largest and most significant infrastructure projects as an architect and trusted advisor. She's an experienced non-executive director. Her current positions include a senior counsellor of the Australian Institute of Architects, a member of the La Trobe University Council and deputy chair of the Infrastructure and Estates Planning Committee, a member of the University of Wollongong Smart Infrastructure Advisory Council, a commissioner of the Victorian Building Authority and a member of its Research and Innovation Committee, and on the Remuneration Committee, and as I mentioned earlier, the committee that I was involved in that she chairs, the independent statutory body, the Building Regulations Advisory Committee. Yvonne is a member of several design advisory panels, including those for Sydney Metro, WestConnex and the Mornington Peninsula Shire Council. In 2007, she was awarded a Member of the Order of Australia for services to architecture, design and building through involvement with a range of professional organisations to the promotion of women in business and to the community. Yvonne also has a lovely family, many of whom now work in the same industry, and some of whom are here this morning. So once again, I look forward to hearing more about her thoughts on International Women's Day and being better for balance.
Thank you very much, Benita. I thought I'd talk about perhaps how things have changed, and perhaps by giving examples of what's happened during my working life, and perhaps a bit before that, how the concept of balance has changed. It obviously has got a lot better, but I think everyone will agree there's still a way to go. I don't want to bore you with my life history, but it does play an enormous part in what has happened to me, obviously, over my life and what has influenced me. I'm the only child of refugees who came from Vienna in 1938. And they came, obviously, as far away from things that were happening in Europe as they could possibly go. So Melbourne was pretty far. They arrived in a large cohort and there were very few children. I was born in Australia after they arrived. And my first language was German. So when I went to kindergarten, I didn't speak English. And I went to a local kindergarten and I was obviously very miserable. My godfather lived next door to a Catholic convent in Toorak and suggested to my parents that I go there. They couldn't afford it, but somehow or other, the nuns, the Loreto nuns, looked after me, and they looked after me for all my years of schooling. So I spent 2 years in kindergarten and then 2 years in matric to get a Commonwealth scholarship, which in those days was an essential to get to the university because the fees were astronomical. I spent 14 years, I think it was, or 13, someone can do the arithmetic for me, at this amazing school run by nuns, run by women, who had an international organisation and an Australian-wide organisation behind them. So we knew our contemporaries in other states, and we made through competitions, through writing for the school magazines and things like that. Some of these women are friends of mine today. But the most important thing school taught me was about my contemporaries and my cohort. I'm still friends with the 25 kids I did matric with, and most of them started kindergarten with me. We still meet regularly. We support each other without question. And I think that's something that has been an amazing strength and support throughout my life. Our education was mixed. Had I realised at the time that I should have done Latin, probably European history, and I can't think what else, domestic science maybe, to get a good score, life would have been easy. But I always wanted to do architecture, so my father was an engineer, that obviously was part of it, and I was intent on doing architecture whatever the cost. Not too many of my contemporaries went to the university. So it was a bit of a battle. And when I did matric, or what is now year 12, I did subjects that the school didn't teach, so I taught myself. And I taught the nuns who were delegated to run the class. We did the course together. Now that was obviously a real challenge, and a real challenge to get good marks, but it taught me something about working with people, and it gave me some life lessons about how to do things. The result was, obviously, I went to university. I loved university. No subject was too hard for me. I had a fantastic opportunity to partake in student politics, which I enjoyed. I met, excuse me, I met some wonderful people who, again, are lifelong friends. It taught me that working together with both men and women made life a lot easier. I had a reputation of being rather stupid because what I used to do is share my notes, and my exam summaries were used for years. I shared them with everyone. I didn't see it as something that we were competing for. We were trying to get the whole year through some of the subjects that were bloody hard and quite poorly taught. So the more we worked together, the better life was and the more people got through. And that's a lesson I think that has has stayed with me, because in practice in architecture, it's a team sport, Matti, dare I say it. You can't do a thing alone. On big projects where there might be 200 or 300 people involved, you need everyone to pull their weight. And if they're not up to it, you have to help them pull their weight or teach them externally or internally or whatever happens. So from those women at school who were remarkable, they weren't necessarily very academically trained, I learnt a hell of a lot. From my cohort, I learnt a lot. We had some amazing stories amongst my cohort of students at school. Some had incredibly bad luck, which we as a group, I hope, in retrospect, were able to help them get through. We had a girl, I can name her, Anne Henderson, who left school in intermediate, which is, I think, year 10 today. She actually did domestic science. She wasn't very clever, but she was cunning. She became the Minister for Health in a Victorian government through just hard work and support and knowing how to get on and listen to people and work out what it was she didn't know. So there's a balance there between having your goals, if I dare say that, and achieving them. Sometimes it mightn't be a direct route, but more than often it's more than possible with the help of others. In my more recent years of practice, I can't claim to have a good sense of balance. And my daughter, who's here today, who virtually runs our Melbourne office, will tell you that I probably was a pretty hard taskmaster, and I probably wasn't balanced towards the kids when they were small, my kids when they were small. But I hope I gave them a sense of what's right and what's proper. And even if I wasn't able to achieve it, I hope that they managed to achieve it in their life. Now, the same goes in later life in terms of very many board positions that I've had. And really, I suppose I'll break the rules and say I have no idea why women want to get onto boards. It's not much fun, or it's rarely fun. One of the first boards I was on was a company called Powercore. It was when the Victorian government was going to privatise electricity. And it was horrendous. There were something like 3,500 employees that knew they were going to be halved in number. The organisations around rural Victoria knew that all their hidden secrets would be revealed, and the hidden secrets were 3 million rotting power poles that somebody had to buy and maintain. Not a good look. We had fights with the government, and I remember the Treasurer of the day, the board had to meet with the Treasurer of Victoria, who thumped the table and said, "You'll sell this, you won't break it up, you won't do anything but sell it as a whole." And he thumped and thumped and thumped. To this day, when I see him, he's embarrassed about the way he behaved. But it was sold and it did help Victoria. And we as a board, we had to sack our CEO, we had to, bite our tongues, we had to work together to achieve the government's goal. In later years, I've been on fantastic boards that are probably not very well known to you all. The ones that are known to you are the public company boards, and I don't know why anyone would ever sit on a public company board, and I say that don't aspire to sit on a company board, a public board. The compliance regimes, the protocols are horrendous. They stop you thinking clearly and they stop you thinking rationally. They're not balanced. Even though, I agree their composition may not be balanced in terms of men and women, the work they do is not balanced, although shareholders' rights are of the utmost concern. More often than not, that's not the way it turns out. I really enjoy what I do today. I think I've got a pretty good balance. I help the firm when I can, but I'm involved in urban design and design excellence panels, I suppose, around Australia on very big infrastructure projects. And that's where the balance for me is not apparent yet. I sit on design excellence panels in New South Wales for Sydney Metro and for WestConnex, the big road. I love roads. I don't know why, but I love roads. I love putting art on roads. I love designing the bits on the sides of roads. Infrastructure is an area where there are very few women. That has to change, and it will change with the number of women engineering graduates in particular, because that seems to be the hang-up. You either have to be an accountant or an engineer to be on a board. I don't know why. A rational person is what is actually needed, not necessarily the education in engineering or anything else. So whilst I've seen some improvement, there's still a long way to go. And I urge all of you to think about what it is you can contribute to the balance and to make the balance better. I certainly enjoy promoting women. I was president of an international women's organisation, the Australian president of an international women's organisation, and it was, during my tenure, it was fantastic to go to conferences around the world and hear similar tales from women in other countries. We're not behind and nor are we ahead. We're playing the game just as everybody else is. So there's fantastic opportunities to change things for the better. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to our two fabulous and fascinating speakers, Matti and Yvonne. You're both very clearly very inspirational in your given fields, and it's great to hear about your experiences and adventures navigating this ever-changing landscape that we work in. I know that gender balance has changed a great deal since I've worked at NDY, and highlighted by both your stories, we still obviously have a long way to go. I also wanted to thank you all for coming along and celebrating International Women's Day with us, and this year's theme of Balance for Better. We also wanted to remind you that the pictures of today's events will be shared on NDY's social media, and it'd be great if you could share them within your networks as well. So thank you